And what does it say?
99.2.
By all means, I think we should call Houston and tell Mission Control that the shuttle Discovery is on Launchpad A and ready for takeoff. What do you think, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Denise, who are these people?
We have liftoff.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is Tad and Brooke. Now, Tad and Brooke go back a long, long way. Tad used to be married to Dixie, who was on there a little while ago. When they were married, something happened and they broke up. Well, her uncle got involved with them. And he's this rich, snotty old guy who didn't think Tad was good enough for his niece. And so he did everything he could to break them up. Anyway, while they were separated, he had an affair with Brooke. Then he went back to Dixie because Brooke knew in her heart that he really loved her, so she told him to feel free to go to back. The day that Tad and Dixie were supposed to get married, a man named Billy Clyde Tuggle, who hated Tad, kidnapped Dixie and took her away. And when Tad went to get Dixie back from Billy Clyde, they had a big fight on the bridge, and they fell off the bridge, and Billy Clyde died, and Tad disappeared. And everybody assumed that he drowned in the river and was just washed out to sea. But he didn't die. He got amnesia and went away for 2 years. And then he was found by a lady named Nola Orsini in California. And what Nola said was she thought Tad was her long-lost son who'd been kidnapped when he was little because he looked so much like the boy. So she took him in and raised him, taught him all about the wine vineyards and everything. And then they came back to Pine Valley, Tad and Nola, because Nola was getting involved with Dimitri Merrick, who's also on here, and who's married to Erica Kane, who is the big broad on this show, just the end all of everything. Anyway, when Tad came to Pine Valley, he started getting all his memories back about everything that was going on in his past, but he couldn't connect who was who. Meanwhile, Nola had had a heart attack and was in the hospital, and Dixie ended up being her parent aide. And she thought, Dixie's the perfect woman for my son Ted, who is known as Ted now. And then Dixie was his wife, or supposed to be his wife, so they tried to get back together. But what happened is so much time had passed, and Dixie had married Brian, but she didn't really love him. She just did it to get support from him, because her ex-husband Adam was trying to steal her son, and her and Brian got married so they could leave the country under different names, and nobody could find them. But she told Brian, I don't love you, I love Tad. But by that time, Tad had already found his way to Brooke, and Brooke was supportive and kind and caring. She's a very nice person. She didn't mean to do anything on purpose. But her and Tad ended up getting married, because when she had the affair with him, before he went back to Dixie, before he got amnesia and left the show for 2 years to pursue a Hollywood career that didn't happen. Anyway, she got pregnant, but never told anybody that it was Tad's baby for a long, long time, until he was about a year old. They just told everybody that she had had artificial insemination. But when Tad came back and realized that Jamie was his son, he wanted to be in his life, and they got close, and now they're married. And Dixie... Now, what happens is all these pictures are in the papers about, Tad Martin returns after 2 years, and everybody thought he was Ted Orsini, da-da-da-da. And the real Ted Orsini, who's the spitting image of him, because Michael Lee Knight plays both the same guys, comes back looking to get his inheritance from Tad. But Nola has set up her will and everything so that nobody can get near any of the money or the vineyards or any of the properties or anything except for the boy that she thought was Tad. But Tad, being not Tad, says to the real Tad, well, I'll be a man about it, and I'll split it with you, and I'll bring you the business, and I'll teach you everything. But they hate each other because Tad still loves Dixie, and now Ted's falling in love with Dixie, and they're fighting over her. Meanwhile, Tad and Brooke are trying to have another baby together. Why? I don't know, because we know he's going to end up back with Brooke, or back with Dixie, and Ted's going to have his heart broken and kill somebody because he's just way out into space. Brooke was in love with Edmund, who is Dimitri Merrick's brother, and she got mad at him because he took off and kidnapped Erica to get even with Dimitri because he was mad at him because Dimitri wouldn't give him his share of the Merrick inheritance. And anyway, Edmund is going out now with Maria Santos, who's Kendall. Now, I mentioned Erica before. Erica is the head honcho of this show. She's been on longer than anybody else. She's been nominated for 13 Emmys and not won once. But anyway, when Erica was 14, she went to Hollywood to visit her father, who walked in her shoes as a little girl, and he's Eric Kane, a big Hollywood producer in this show. Anyway, while she was there, he was supposed to have this great big huge surprise birthday party for her, but he got so busy with his business, he forgot all about it, and she ended up sitting there all evening alone in her party dress, waiting for everybody to show up for a party that wasn't even going to happen. Well, a knock comes to the door about 10 o'clock at night, and here's this guy, I forget what his name is, but he's a big movie star at the time, and she idolized him, and all the little girls thought he was hot and sexy, and she thought her father had arranged this guy to come in to surprise her for her birthday to have their own little birthday party. What she didn't know is the guy had been drinking, and he was a let. And he ended up raping her. She was 14, and she had a baby who was that little girl. That's Kendall. Anyway, Kendall gets put up for adoption by Erica's mother, Mona, because she figures Erica's too young to have a baby, and it would ruin her whole life, and she was right. So the baby goes up for adoption, and now just this year, she finally found out who Erica is and has come back into her life. But she's so resentful of the fact that Erica had this big, glamorous, wonderful life and all this money and wonderful men and trips to Europe and da-da-da-da-da, and owns her own business, and was a world-class model, that she's out to destroy her because she grew up in a little diddly town somewhere in Florida being the girl next door. And since then, Erica's had another little girl named Bianca who's about 10, 8 or 10, somewhere in there, who she adores and loves and worships and everything, and Kendall's like this stranger that's never been there before. Anyway, Kendall really wants Bianca out of Erica's life, so she's doing everything she can to see that Erica's ex-husband, Travis, keeps custody of Bianca. He got custody when him and Erica divorced because Erica was sleeping with his brother, and Bianca had a freak out, burned their house down, and anyway, that's how that was. So Kendall now has decided that she's going to make sure that Travis never lets Erica see Bianca again, and that she's going to take Dimitri, who's Erica's new, very rich and nice-looking husband, away from her to get even with her for putting her up for adoption all those years ago, even though it wasn't Erica's fault, it was her mother's choice to do so. And that's who she is, and so far I kind of waver about whether I like her. Now, some days I can understand her, but other days I don't know. I think she's a real witch. And it started out when she first came on the show, she was only supposed to be 14 or 15, but now she's like 23, they're telling me. So soaps are soaps, and you can do anything you want in them, and that's just the way they work.